By the way, our buddy Rob Porter, the Say Anything blog, had to depart and had to deal with a situation where there was a car accident in the family. Nobody hurt, we understand, so that's good. But anyway, he had to take off. So anyway, we'll pass on the information we learned from our previous guest, what he feels about this situation that's received a little bit of attention in Goodrich, and obviously update the situation. So wanted to let you know that's why Rob was not joining me in the questioning. He had to leave, but we'll update him on what's going on, and now you know the latest on that particular situation. As I mentioned tonight, book signing at Barnes & Noble Fargo for the book Grassroots, a Common Sense Action Agenda for America. We are spending a little time this weekend next talking with folks who have been chronicled in the book Grassroots, a Common Sense Action Agenda for America. And our next guest is in the book, Eugene Graner. I talk about him on page 130. A businessman, a grassroots American who's taken the time to study economics, one of the most knowledgeable people I know about how our government's actions impact the business and climate, the investment, the employment, the creation of wealth. And I actually chronicle one of our many chats on the Common Sense Club in the book when Eugene explained exactly why $1 trillion of government stimulus spending ended up killing jobs and deepening the recession. Eugene told me the stimulus failed. President Obama promised that if we passed the bill, we'd hold job losses at 8%. But after all that stimulus was injected into the economy, the unemployment rate continued climbing and hovered at close to 10%, up just last week to 9.2%. But that didn't begin to tell the whole story. Eugene also told me not only did the unemployment rate keep rising, but those who were still employed became less employed on a weekly basis. Government statistics show that weekly employment hours dropped after the stimulus bill passed. By September of 2009, weekly employed people were working only 33 hours a week on average. Many employed people were actually underemployed, making less money per week. So even those who still had jobs were hurt by the Obama economy. I asked Gene why the stimulus failed to produce jobs, and he told me because the people who wrote the stimulus bill don't understand free markets. And that really is the bottom line. Eugene Graner, Heartland Investor Services, and one of my many common sense Heartlanders in Grassroots, a Common Sense Action Agenda for America, joins us now. Gene, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on, Scott, and congratulations on your book coming out. I'm going to try to pick one up tonight or tomorrow.
I'll sign one and send one off to you since you contribute mightily to the effort of telling the story of putting America back to work as you do in the book. And that's the bottom line, isn't it? I mean, these are the people that got together and wrote this piece of legislation that said, yeah, let's spend $1 trillion when you include the interest expense. Just don't get free markets, do they?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a reason why history shows economies thrive when governors become presidents versus when senators become presidents, because governors see their constituents on a day-to-day basis. They're not in a bubble before they become president, and they understand what hardworking Americans, which are business owners, by the way, they're not the rich millionaires you perceive. They're usually working side by side with their employees, but governors have a sense and feeling what holds the businesses back. And I'll tell you what, I heard this morning from the governor of Virginia. I was listening to a conversation he had, and when he would visit his constituents, actually taxes weren't at the top of their list that was holding jobs back. It was regulation. And on top of the new Obama health care bill, employers are scared to add, because if they need to let an employee go because for whatever reason their perceptions of improved business don't pan out, they are now responsible for that employee when they let them go for their health care for quite a long period of time, as opposed to the old COBRA event when you let somebody go, they could continue to buy the health insurance through the employer but had to pay for it in full for, 14 or 16 months. So we have an administration pushed along by, when the Democrats controlled both the Senate and the Congress, with people like former Senator Byron Dorgan and currently retiring Senator Kent Conrad, who frankly never had to worry about where their paycheck was going to come from, if their employer would be able to cash it this week or not, nor worry about making paychecks for employees underneath them. They have received a check from Uncle Sam and or the state government ever since they left college. So people like themselves and President Obama do not know what it's like to be in the trenches, to be responsible for a paycheck, or let alone be receiving a paycheck from an employer and worrying about how business is doing for the employer so the paycheck even cashes. That changes the mindset of how jobs are created, and it's something that Washington still refuses to accept. I am actually upset with listening to President Obama today when he came out with his speech. I mean, here's a man who wants to talk about their fancy words, how they want to have a balanced approach. Well, first off, you can't have a balanced approach if the Democratic Congress, Senate, and Democratic President the last 2 years never passed a budget. Imagine trying to have a family budget making ends meet if there is no budget to begin with. You can have all the incoming money you want, but humans have a tendency of spending more than we have. So we're in this mess we are in, and add to that President Obama's $787 billion failed stimulus plan that was supposed to keep unemployment under 8%. That is now on the books. That has us pushed up against this credit limit. And add to that, on top of it, the TARP plan, which basically bailed out big banks and bailed out the unions and kept Ford and kept Chrysler and Chevrolet today as we know it, as opposed to changing management and getting the union out. And so here we are today. We are up against our credit limit sooner than should be. And I'll be frank with you, timing is everything. President Obama has something on his side right now, and that is Europe is falling apart. We went from Greece, who, by the way, if you want to know what we're going to look like someday if we don't get our train back on track here for spending, look at Greece. And now today, Portugal, coming apart at the seams. And the creditors are going to tell Greece and Portugal how they're going to live. And that's how the U.S. can find itself in a decade. But we have several things on our side yet. One is a printing press, which is a bad thing because it increases food costs and energy. But in a nutshell, the markets today seem to believe that a gun is going to be put to the politician's head, and in the very last hours, probably 11th hour decision, there is going to be a lift in the debt ceiling. The only hope is what kind of concessions are Bonnier going to get from the House side to force against Obama. We went from the big deal, now it's the little deal. But the markets, you look at the dollar is rallying to the highest levels of the past 2 months, not because we feel we're going to come out of this thing unscathed. It's because nobody wants European debt right now. Interest rates, U.S. 30-year bonds, U.S. Treasury notes today. Don't look at what people are saying. Look at what the markets are doing. Interest rates are falling back down to their low levels again. That must mean one conclusion is there is going to be an 11th hour deal where, in fact, the concessions are going to be made. Or I read over the weekend, and Scott, you probably read this too, how Obama is going to probably try to resurrect some Civil War constitutional measure that allows him to circumvent the Congress and spend money on behalf of the president. This came about during the Civil War when we lost the South as paying revenue. We didn't have the revenues coming in, and we had war debt. And so this congressional measure was passed. Some are saying it's not constitutional today anymore. It was for that time. The question is that where Obama's going? So hard times. Why are we pushed into the corner and have to make decisions like this and can't have free market decisions decide this? I'm just lost. This is what happens when you let senators run the country and not governors.
We talked about in the book a statistic that small businesses that have been in existence for only 5 years or less create about 50% of the jobs in this country. So when we come out of recessions, and you've talked about this statistic before. Now, these are the very people that President Obama is holding out on this debt deal to raise taxes on. And if obviously he ultimately is successful in that, what happens?
Well, the bottom line is you will continue to keep job building at a minimum. When will people call a spade a spade? When is a lie a lie? When is defined as is? President Obama in his speech today talked about he was just wanting to, quote unquote, tax the very rich, which, by the way, define the very rich. Is it the very rich that the top 3% pay over 50% of the taxes? At what point in time is that not unfair? But he has, in his working consideration that he's trying to buffalo everybody with, he's got raising taxes on small business owners, and potentially I've heard in there something about low and middle income families are also caught in his budget. But all he is talking about superfluously on the top is raising taxes on the corporate jet owners. Of course, 99.9% of us don't ride a corporate jet. Of course, we get invited sometimes on them, but we don't own them. But the point is, Who could balk at that? You obviously know he has had this poll tested and knows he can get 99% of people to say, yeah, go ahead, do the corporate tax jets. But we already have the rich paying an unfair burden. First off, if you had a flat tax, if everybody paid 14%, the old Steve Forbes thing, obviously the more money you make, the more you pay in. But we have this graduated tax, which penalizes you. The more successful you are, the more you are to pay in. We already have the top 3% of our income-producing individuals across the United States that are paying in over 50% of the taxes in this country. Now, Warren Buffett, who used to be a big fan of President Obama and still continues to be, doesn't take any income as a payable, taxable event. He takes everything as dividends. Well, if he has a bleeding heart with his billions, then why doesn't he pay himself $100 million and pay income tax? Instead, he takes all his income, because he owns billions of dollars of stock, he takes it all in corporate tax gains, dividends at 15%. If we go raise the taxes on dividends and capital gains, you can say goodbye to innovativeness in the United States and for people trying to aspire to be better. We will take on a socialistic European attitude as, I've done enough this for today, or I've not done enough this year. Why should I go anymore? Because the government wants to take 70, 80% of it. At what point in time do we stop penalizing success? Do we penalize our children in school for getting A's because too many kids are getting C's and we have to use a curve and bring their grades up? Bottom line, don't punish success. That's what makes America great. And if you read the book Think and Grow Rich by Norman Vincent Peale, rich people understand it's a circle. In order for you to better yourself, you have to bring other people into the circle. And you bring in good people to help move your business forward, not poor people. I mean, poorly educated, poorly motivated people. People are motivated by being taken care of by their employee with good hours, possibly the health care, which is what everybody's after today, and good wages. And employers know that. Providing poor conditions do not bring the best people. Best people in your company move your company forward. It's simple math. And again, senators, and I'm referring to Senator President Obama, who became president, wouldn't have any concept how this works. At least Sarah Palin had 2 years' experience of running a state. This president is showing it's amateur hour, as you use that expression many times. It's amateur hour, and he's already been on the job for over 2 years, and it's still amateur hour.
We quote Eugene extensively in the book on the chapter of Getting America Working, Getting America Back to Work under the failure of Obamonomics. When we come back, we're going to ask him more about his comments for the book Grassroots, a Common Sense Action Agenda for America, and the what ifs. Will it be the financial Armageddon the Secretary of Treasury predicts if there is no debt limit increase? We'll ask Eugene Graner, Heartland Investor Services, when we come back on the Common Sense Club and the Scott Hannon Show after this short timeout. When I tell you about getting 80 miles to the gallon. You can, if you call my buddy Ken and his team at Quality Auto Body and Quality Motorsports. They have these premium scooters now from CF Moto. I've ridden them. They're fun. They're a blast. They're red and yellow and silver and black and white, and they have all kinds of great colors. They go like 65 miles an hour. They get 80 miles to the gallon. Fuel injected for better starting reliability. There's a big 150cc engine on these things, liquid cooled. That means they last longer and have better durability than the air-cooled engines, and they are a great deal. Listen to this. If you buy one right now, retail price on this would be about $2,700. You get a darn near half off, about $15.95. A limited number of these available right now with a 2-year warranty, service done by Quality Auto Body. You will not find a better deal on scooters. These aren't ones you can buy online. They are only sold through a dealer. They're great quality, and they're about half price right now. Call this number, 701-235-1937, or contact them through the QualityAutoBodyShop.com website. They have locations in Fargo and Valley City at Quality Auto Body. Premium scooters from CF Moto at a great deal from Quality Auto Body, 701-235-1937. Hey, have you been frustrated with the lack of news coming out of the flooding in western North Dakota? I know I have. It's hard to get information. Friends and neighbors out there, relatives, you just want to know what's happening. Guess what? PlainsDaily.com is doing a great job of aggregating all kinds of news and information from the flooding in Bismarck, Mandan, up in the Minot as well. And you know what? In Bismarck, we're talking weeks and weeks this is going to last. So if you're looking for a trusted news source, PlainsDaily.com. The last legislative session that wrapped up earlier this year, I mean, it was an incredible resource. In fact, you were reading about Plains Daily News and a lot of other news sources. Somebody has to report this stuff. And they do every single day. Make sure you sign up for the daily updates as well and make it a regular source of trusted news and information. No opinion. It's just straight news at plainsdaily.com. There's links to different opinions, Say Anything blog, ScottHemmonsShow.com. But if you want the straight news and you want the scoop, get it at plainsdaily.com. Plainsdaily.com.
Today you have a choice. Instead of struggling with those things that need to be done, you could choose to move to Tufty Manor. If you need a small amount of help, or more than just a little, you'll feel the comfort of knowing it's just a call away. Don't wait until you have a crisis and you're forced to decide. Feel the warmth and friendliness when you visit Tufty Manor, offering assisted living and basic care. Tufty is part of Valley Memorial Homes, providing services to this community for over 85 years.
Hey, you need tires? Do you need 6,000 tires? Well, Northwest Tire stocks more tires than anyone else in the valley with 700 different sizes in stock. Join 1310 KNOX on Tuesday from 11 to 2 p.m. during the grand opening of Northwest Tire on Highway 2 West. And if you're hungry, free L&M Meats Brats, along with a bag of chips and pop, all the way from 11 to 7. And your kids can tackle the giant inflatable obstacle course. Only $9.95 for an oil change that you can use anytime. The grand opening of Northwest Tire is going on through Friday. If you need tires for your car, truck, RV, commercial truck, or farm equipment, get to Northwest Tire today.
Hail season is here. Hi, this is Larry McGillis with Mayport Insurance. Production hail protects the portion of your crop value not covered by your multi-peril policy. I can flat out save you a third of your premium on your hail insurance and increase your loss payment. This is the best value on hail coverage I've seen in 35 years. Don't save pennies to lose dollars. Call Mayport Insurance and find out how you can increase your corn, wheat, and soybean APH up to 130% with production hail. Remember, you never get a bummer from the Hummer.
We all love our kids and pets, so we do anything to make sure they are safe. Hello, this is John with Greenworks Landscaping and Fencing. Our locally owned company is here to help keep your family and furry loved ones safe. We pride ourselves in putting the last fence in you will ever need. So if you're worried about keeping those you love in your yard, or maybe even those you don't out, call us at Greenworks Landscaping and Fencing at 741-1131. That is 741-1131. Greenworks Landscaping and Fencing. You're keeping your family safe. Landscaping and Fencing Solution.
Want to lower the cost of doing business? Stop harmful spam and virus intrusions. Barracuda Networks can help. The Barracuda Spam and Virus Firewall is an integrated hardware and software solution that processes and filters out bad email before it enters your network. With no per-user fees and automatic updates, the Barracuda Spam and Virus Firewall is the most cost-effective solution for protecting your network from email-borne threats. Powerful yet affordable security, networking, and storage solutions trusted by more than 80,000 businesses worldwide. Call 888-ANTI-SPAM for your free evaluation unit. 888-ANTI-SPAM or visit barracuda.com.
Here's another question from the Geico Savings Mailbag.
Heather from Bakersfield writes, how do you feel about rain? Well, Heather, if you're talking about the downpour of savings people are getting on their motorcycle insurance with Geico, then I love it.
It's quite literally a money monsoon.
Ooh, a late afternoon cash shower.
And those riders who combine their motorcycle and auto insurance will have an even higher chance of savings cloudbursts.
Now, the only kind of rain I don't like is the wet kind. Humidity makes my hair frizz.
Call Geico or visit geico.com today to see how much our multi-policy discount could save you.
We're back on the Common Sense Club of the Scott Innes Show, chatting with Eugene Graner of Heartland Investor Services, one of those great Common Sense Heartlanders featured in the book Grassroots, a Common Sense Action Agenda for America. Book signing at Barnes & Noble tonight, by the way, 6 until 8. We'll start with the Q&A, and then the book signing going until 8 o'clock, so stop on by. I found another place I quoted you in the book where you talked about how we break down the stimulus spending into what every household contributes. $1 billion, $10 a household, $100 billion, $1,000 is the bill. $1 trillion, $10,000 for every household, which is, as you say, not how you produce jobs. Creates actually a drag on the economy, and people don't even realize it. But there does seem to be an awakening of sorts of this sort of common sense of how the stimulus, $1 trillion, is not working, and the Obama policies, as you predicted when we talk about those in the book here, Gene, haven't worked, right? Do you get the sense people are starting to get it?
That's correct. You know, and part of it, too, is it's called consumer confidence. And I was vocal about this, but it was never going to see the light of day because then the public would have saw or had seen how wasteful government spending is. Instead of President Obama wasting that, let's round it up to $800 billion. He had that stimulus plan in 2009, $800 billion he wasted. Essentially, that's 1/4 of revenues that come in every year. Well, what he could have done was said in 2010, starting in 2010 or the second quarter of 2009, you know what? We're going to shut off all tax receipts. Everybody can keep the next $800 billion, which comes to 1/4 of the revenue that comes into the United States. We spend about, what, $3.4 trillion? I take it back. It was a third. The bottom line is this. There should have been no taxes collected from the American public for 1/4. And that meant every man, woman, and child, for that matter, who worked at the grocery store would have taken home 100% of their paycheck. And that would have created consumer confidence. How? Well, some say, well, people wouldn't have spent the money. They would have paid down their credit cards. They would have paid down their bills. But excuse me, how do you build consumer confidence without first paying down your bills? So instead of this money that Obama wastefully wasted $800 billion, the consumers would have put that $800 billion in their pockets.
Sure they would have.
Or some would have spent as needed. And then the next quarter and the quarter after that, as people felt better about themselves, because I did pay down one credit card, by the way, now they're more willing to spend with what? Confidence, because they've gotten control of some of their debt. Instead, Obama wasted $800 billion, and consumer confidence is now still at a new all-time low.
Yeah, but
so again,
a tax holiday that would have proven a heck of a point. I mean, the very good point. Only have a minute left, but I want to know if you buy this financial Armageddon of doom and gloom if we don't ultimately, raise the debt ceiling. You buying that?
Well, we're going to have to do something like Minnesota, shut down the government and find out what is quote-unquote essential service. We should go to essential service until we get a balanced budget and then figure out where the spending is going to be cut. The military is left alone. You pay all your debt payments. You don't miss the mortgage payment, period. And you have essential services. We have essential services in the U.S. Shut it down until a true bill. They put a gun to the head of the American people. We need to put a gun to the head back to the politicians and say, you fix this right or you're not going to have a job in 2012.
Great insight as always from our pal, Eugene Graner, Heartland Investor Services. By the way, you can get a free newsletter of Eugene's if you go to his website, heartlandinvest.com. Free knowledge like that every single day. And Eugene, thanks for the insight as always. Glad you are such a passionate defender of common sense and that we could feature you in the book Grassroots. Thanks, my friend. Good to talk to you.
Glad to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Book signing tonight, Barnes & Noble, 6 until 8. Grand Forks, 5 until 7 Thursday night. Win a free copy at scotthannon.com, plus links on how you can buy them. Grassroots, a common sense action agenda for America. More after this, friends. Don't go away.
Attention truck lovers, have I got a deal
Thanks,
for you?
Gene. That worked good.
NelsonFergusFalls.com is the website.
I hope
if you're
it
in the
was
market
not
for
only
a
entertaining but insightful.
Yeah, really, I can't believe how good it sounds. Sounds better than the Comrex. Right there on Skype.
Okay. Very good.
It's amazing.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott.
And
I'll be picking up a book.
And we got a little video.
And if you want to send me a signed copy, I'll
send you a signed copy. Do you hang up, Alex? Yeah, okay.
Yep. Somehow in there I lost you.
Yeah, I lost you. I got you back. I'll send you a copy.
Excellent. And I'm going to go buy another copy. The signed copy I'll have laying around. Well, no, I'll take that one home. I'll buy another one here around the office. Now, I noticed the audio was better at the beginning of the call than later in the call. It's like there must be some cache loading or something, because we were a little fuzzy towards the end of the call, but now when you called me back, it was nice and clear. Or is it just on my end?
Must be on your end, because I sounded the same the whole way through and really clear.
Okay. I seemed to get a little more fuzzy towards the end of the call, it seemed. But as long as you were hearing good and clear, that's all that matters.
Okay.
Take care. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gene. I see that.
Swimsuits, got them. Life jackets, got them. Aquafina and Lipton green tea, you just picked them up at Hugo's. But, still missing something to make your lake trip complete? How about a Kawasaki jet ski? Register at all Hugo's locations and your summer on the water could get a lot more fun. Pack your cooler full of Aquafina and Lipton green tea and register to win the Kawasaki jet ski. Hurry to Hugo's to make your lake trip complete. Kawasaki personal watercraft from Revolutions.
The News Authority for the Red River Valley. News Talk 1310, KNOX, Grand Forks, and KNOX KNOXradio.com. Write it down so you'll always know where to find breaking news 24 hours a day. Stay with News Talk 1310, KNOX.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Chuck Severson. Still in the red, Uncle Sam and you. Debt ceiling talks were over for the day at the White House. No word of progress.
The talks broke up after about an hour and a half. President Obama had earlier admonished leaders to do the, distasteful.
Eat our peas. Now's the time.
Yes, I turned
if not now, when?
By that, the president means revenues, taxes, but that's something Republicans can't swallow. Ann Compton, ABC News, the White House.
Saying he gets along fine with President Obama. Speaker John Boehner insists there can be no deficit reduction deal that includes tax hikes the president is proposing.
I want to do what I think is in the best interest of the country. But it takes two to tango.
So many Republicans have pledged not to vote for any debt increase that Speaker Boehner says it will take a bipartisan vote to pass any package. Vic Ratner, ABC News, Washington.
Utility crews are out restoring more than 500,000 power outages in the Chicago area after this violent storm with hail, lightning, and wind gusting to 75 miles an hour.
Make a call to Chicago O'Hare Airport and you'll hear this.
Airlines have canceled more than 200 flights.
Flights that are taking off are delayed 90 minutes. Big delays are also being reported at Midway Airport. O'Hare is a major hub for both United and American Airlines, so the impact is being felt nationwide. Some airlines are now allowing customers to modify their reservations without fees. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Word just a few moments ago from the Energy Department that over the past week, gasoline, on average for regular, was up 6 cents a gallon to an average national average of $3.64 a gallon. Space Shuttle Atlantis gotten the go-ahead from NASA to extend the mission an extra day. The toilet on the space station is acting up again, so all aboard have to go to the shuttle to go. This is ABC News.
This is a special announcement to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 175,000 miles with a manufacturer's warranty about to expire or no automobile breakdown coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy and major car companies filing for bankruptcy, Automobile Coverage of America has announced a revolutionary low-cost coverage plan that is now available to the general public to save consumers thousands on auto repairs. Drivers with less than 175,000 miles will not have to pay for a covered vehicle repair bill again out of their own pocket. Now the repair bill is paid directly for you. This is the automobile breakdown coverage that is sweeping across the nation. That's a fraction of the cost that some dealerships are charging. Drivers who activate this coverage will also receive roadside assistance, towing, and car rental at no additional cost. Call today for a free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. Number to call is 800-570-9049. 800-570-9049. Again, that's 800-570-9049.
Live, local news with Doug Barrett in the KNOX Newsroom.
Day in court, a 52-year-old man arrested following a shootout that killed a Bismarck police officer has been charged with murder. Burleigh County State's Attorney Richard Reha says Stephen Bannister was charged today in the shooting death of Sergeant Stephen Kenner. Kenner, another officer, responded about 11 o'clock Friday to a call about a man threatening a woman with a knife as they approached the van. Bannister allegedly shot Kenner dead. Strong storms Sunday evening knocked out electricity to thousands of customers in southeast North Dakota, causing heavy damage throughout the region. The storms brought strong winds, heavy rain, and reports of tornadoes to McIntosh, Dickey, Sargent, and Richland counties. North Dakota fair officials say the phone's been ringing off the hook since the announcement over the weekend that this year's event in Minot's being canceled. Manager Renee Korslein says that most of the questions deal with people wanting to know what happens to their money. Korslein says issuing refunds is the top priority right now, but once that's out of the way, they'll start to focus on next year's event.
As soon as we can shake down a few things, we are so anxious to get into next year because we are going to make it the best. 2012 North Dakota State Fair. Be there.
And Korslein says everyone who's due a refund will get paid unless, of course, they would like to donate the money to the fair. She was a guest on KNOX's Jared Thomas program. North Dakota transportation officials have fully reopened U.S. Highway 2 near Towner. The main east-west route across northern North Dakota had been closed west of Towner because of flooding on the Source Mouse River. No new talks scheduled. Minnesota's government shutdown now at week number 2. Political gridlock continues. How to deal with a $5 billion state budget deficit, idling 22,000 state workers, closing 66 parks, halting over 100 various road projects. City of Grand Forks being asked to chip in $170,000 for a rainwater sculpture garden that will be part of the new downtown redevelopment project at the former Civic Auditorium site. Finance Committee is talking about that today. When North Dakota officials meet with the NCAA in a couple of weeks about UND's Fighting Sioux nickname, the travel bill will likely be about $6,000. North Dakota House Majority Leader Al Carlson sponsored the law and will be attending that meeting.
I wouldn't even want to add up how much we spent on travel today just for our state employees and the things they're going to.
He said the money is a good investment for the law's supporters, and he says it's a minor expense when compared to the overall North Dakota state budget. And more spraying for mosquitoes. Tonight, Grand Forks and East Grand Forks trucks roll about 8 p.m. Of course, that's weather permitting. That's what's happening. Doug Barrett, News Talk 1310, KNOX.
Award-winning news when you need it the most. Your local news authority is News Talk 1310, KNOX.
Welcome, one and all, to the place we call the Common Sense Club.
Senator John Hoeven.
Greetings to you and your listeners.
I was a Rumsfeld fan before it was cool to be a Rumsfeld fan. So
that's very nice. Thank you.
One of my great achievements.
All opinions welcome.
Solid source of actual factual information.
Okay, here's the point I'm trying to make.
The dirty little secret about it all.
Grab the bullhorn here and hop up on that soapbox. We'll let your voice be heard here.
My good friend Mark Levin.
Got your tape recorder going?
Sure.
Get off the phone, you big dope.
A pair of jeans that fit just right. Free speech, 24/7.
And the radio.
Call us 24/7 toll free, 855-200-1776. 855-200-1776.
You see, there is a bastion of common sense.
Best of all, he can't wait to talk to you now. Here he is, Scott Hannon.
Less than 2 hours away, and I'll be Sharpie in hand, signing copies of Grassroots, A Common Sense Action Agenda for America, the brand new book I wrote with your help. Fine listeners of the Common Sense Club and the Scott Hannon Show. Hi, friends. Barnes & Noble today, 6 until 8. Ferguson Books and Media. Just got an email from my friends at Ferguson Books and Media. They asked me to share on Facebook. I did. We'll be up there Thursday in Grand Forks at Ferguson Books and Media, the Menard Strip Mall, 5 to 7 Thursday. Tonight is Barnes & Noble Fargo at 1201 42nd Street, right near West Acres. Start with a little Q&A, so if you have questions, come early. Come right at 6, and then we'll just kind of leisurely sign some books until about 8 o'clock tonight, and you just get there when you get there. Love to have you come by anytime. You don't have to, won't take you long at all. So that's why we do it over a 2-hour period, so just people can come and go as they absolutely please. But I did want to spend a little time just chit-chatting. If you have any particular questions or comments about the book, love to hear them tonight. Barnes & Noble, less than 2 hours away. So looking forward to that. All right, we have some open phone time till the bottom of the hour. Gary Ameth will join us. We're doing Tea Party Caucus updates daily here on the program. They have another gathering of the Tea Party Caucus Organizing Committee with folks in Wahpeton later this week. We'll get an update on that. There's a Tea Party tomorrow in Park River. We're going to talk with the organizer of Patriots in the Park later this hour, too, for quick updates on the Scott Hannon Show and the Common Sense Club. Rob Port of the Say Anything blog is here. He's back after a little scare. Nobody likes to get a call to say, a family member's been in an accident. What was it again? He's a mother-in-law and your daughter. You don't like those phone calls, Rob, but everybody's okay. We can safely say everything's fine except for the vehicle itself, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't get a phone call. I was sitting here in front of the computer chatting with you on air, and all of a sudden my wife sent me an instant message which popped up on my screen saying, my mom and Layla were in a traffic accident. You need to call me right away. So I muted the mic and gave him a call, and we had to rush up there. And turned out it was a little more tears on the phone than I guess It sounded worse than it was. Let me put it that way. So thankfully we got up there, and the worst thing was a wrecked car and some bent sheet metal. So we're lucky.
That stuff's replaceable.
Yeah.
Crying out loud. Yeah, all right. Well, glad to hear everybody's okay. While you were gone, I'll just give you a quick update. We did talk with Woody Fields, and Woody is giving up plans to have this mosque where fellow Muslims in the region can gather, mostly because he's disappointed in the acceptance of it by fellow Muslims, not so much from the reaction to it. He said his wife is not reacting well to all the backlash, but doesn't sound like he was too upset about any of that. More concerned with a lack of sort of positive reinforcement from the Muslim community in the region, and they're not interested. So he's making lemonades from lemon, and his plan is to just use the online version of all this. So anyway, I think that whole situation is resolved, but he didn't necessarily, really seem to be that concerned about the comments from folks. So. Anyway, thought I would update you on that since that was our big story in the first hour. Did it surprise you, Rob?
Yeah, it did surprise me, actually. I'm sorry here. I gotta run here for just a minute, Scott.
All right, you do what you got to do, Rob. It's a family situation there. And you got a little girl and a mother-in-law and a car accident, and your day gets thrown for a loop without question. I wanted to give our audience a chance to hear what Tim Pawlenty said yesterday on Meet the Press, in case you missed it, and get your reaction to it. This is what I want to do next year on our open phone time, because and I thought Michelle Bachmann did a pretty good job of responding to this, but obviously all these candidates are trying to differentiate themselves. They need to draw some clear distinctions between what they've done and what their competitors have done for the race. But is this a good way to go about it? Roll that clip from Tim Pawlenty on Meet the Press yesterday, and then let's get your reaction to it at 855-200-1776. Roll it.
Other respects. But bottom line is, I've got a record, when you look at this, of accomplishment. There's a bunch of people in this race who run around, flap their jaws, but they've never actually done what they're talking about. All the candidates are going to say, I'm for cutting taxes, I'm for cutting spending, I'm for doing health care reform the right way, I'm for conservative judges, and down the list. But I've actually done these things.
Well, what about fellow Minnesotan Michelle Bachmann? She's beating you in the polls. She's got more traction coming out of that recent debate and in Iowa. You're a nice guy. You say you're not going to, speak disrespectfully of a fellow Minnesotan. But this is about, again, distinguishing yourself from others in the field. What makes you different than Congresswoman Bachmann?
Well, I like Congresswoman Bachmann. I've campaigned for her. I respect her. But her record of accomplishment in Congress is non-existent. It's non-existent. And so we're not looking for folks who just have a speech capabilities. We're looking for people who can lead a large enterprise in a public setting and drive it to conclusion. I've done that. She hasn't.
Do you think she's too controversial? She has said on this program and elsewhere that this is a gangster government. She thinks the president has un-American views. Do you think that reflects a temperament that's not suitable for the presidency?
Congresswoman Bachmann and I share many of the same issue positions. We're both conservatives. I think the main difference is this. I've got executive leadership in a public setting with a record of accomplishment and results under difficult and challenging circumstances, and she has served in Congress. And in that regard, her record of accomplishment is, like I said, non-existent.
But what about my question? Do you think it's appropriate to describe the federal government as a gangster government? This administration is a gangster government.
Well, everybody's got different rhetoric that they use. The federal government's out of control. Let's face it. It's plain for everybody to see. So whether you call it a gangster government, out of control, reckless, irresponsible.
You think those are all the same things?
Well, they're similar. But, I've used similar terms.
And so you think that's appropriate?
A gangster government?
Yeah, to call the administration a gangster government?
Well, I've called it incompetent. I've called them out of control. I've called them misguided. I've called them failed. I mean, pick your choice. But the point is, this is a group of people who are disconnected from the economic needs of the people in this country. People are hurting. We got nearly $4 a gallon gas. We've got crushing levels of unemployment. We have a federal government that's out of control.
Yep.
And we have a president who has no clue.
All right, so Tim Pawlenty takes on Michelle Bachmann. The headline out of that is that, her record of accomplishment is non-existent. Now, let me give you my reaction to this, and I want yours at 855-200-1776 or by email, scott@scotthannon.com. People who have been elected tend to see the record of accomplishment only in things that pertain to their public service. Now, in the case of Tim Pawlenty, he's right. He does have a record of accomplishment that could be fairly called different than that of Michelle Bachmann's in that he's been a governor, and he campaigned on a lot of things that he's done. Where I bristled a little bit is to suggest that's the only way you can have a record of accomplishment. In other words, there's other ways to have a record of accomplishment, right? Here's what Michelle Bachmann said about those comments. This is an election about the future of our nation, one where voters will have to decide who's best equipped to lead our nation by looking at our records as well as our vision for the nation. Instead of negativity, I want to focus on my accomplishments. I fought the cap and trade agenda rather than implement it. I will work to end cap and trade as President of the United States. I stood up against President Obama's support of the $700 million bailout rather than defend it. I was a leading voice fighting against Obamacare and the unconstitutional individual mandates. I did not lift my voice in praise of it. My message brought tens of thousands of Americans to Washington, D.C. to oppose Obamacare. As president, I will not rest until Obamacare is repealed, and I will not vote to raise the debt ceiling. People can count on me as a fighter. I'm proud of my record of fighting with resolve and without apology for our free markets, for sane fiscal policies, and in opposition to the advancement of the big government left. As president, the American people can count on me to stand by my record of advancing pro-growth policies to put our nation back on the right track. Okay, now she kind of cheap-shotted back here a little bit, folks, because on cap and trade, we know that Tim Pawlenty, I mean, all these are veiled shots at Pawlenty without mentioning him by name is the bottom line. Cap and trade was one because of, the McCain cap and trade, what do we call it? It's certainly been an area where Governor Pawlenty was in one place and now is in a very different place, okay? So she's saying, hey, I fought it. You were over there talking nice about it. I stood up against President Obama's support of the $700 billion bailout rather than defend it. All right, so Pawlenty had endorsed cap and trade in Minnesota. He had obviously used some of the stimulus dollars as well. What is she talking about, the $700 billion bailout? Which one is that bailout? I don't know if she's talking about the stimulus plan or she's talking about TARP, but he did praise. He also had some things to say about TARP that were different than her. Anyway, long story short, she's kind of doing the cheap shot back, saying, "Well, I was speaking out about this while you were, saying nice things about that." But here's my bigger question: can you have accomplishments that result in awareness? Can your voice be an accomplishment? I think it can be. I do. I think Michelle Bachmann has done an extraordinary job of giving voice to people, whether it be in the Tea Party movement or just folks sitting at home that have said this makes no sense. None. I don't like this.